scripture this morning comes from the second chapter of the Gospel of John, verses 1 through 12. Hear the word of the Lord. On the third day there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does that have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water," and they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." So they took it. When the master of the feast tasted the water, now become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and when the people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this, he went down to Capernaum with his mother and his brothers and his disciples, and they stayed there for a few days. May God help us understand his words this day. You may be seated. Well, I think that we as human beings love the idea of transformation. We do. We like the fact that when it's raining and the sun shines through, the rainbow comes. We like the idea that something ordinary or broken can become new. Just think a minute about the TV shows that we watch as our society. Think about Extreme Makeover Home Edition. Now, see, I'm going on other people's things because I don't watch a lot of TV, but what I understand of this show is they take kind of a broken down house or apartment or something and they make it into something beautiful. And I guess there's a huge following for that. So I don't really know a lot about the Extreme Makeover stuff, or that Marita mentioned earlier, the dances with stars. Someone who doesn't know how to dance gets to be a great dancer. That would be really cool if that happened in real life, wouldn't it? You just want to change something, but it doesn't. So what I watch is The Biggest Loser, and I love that when they have their transformation moments, the time when either the person has gone home and some time has passed, and they tell what changes have happened in their life. You know, sometimes it's 100 pounds or more. And sometimes it's not only the weight loss, but what they're doing to get back. I mean, those transformation moments. So we as a society really like to see transformation. And it's really cool. And the world around us shows us transformation every day. When the darkness turns to dawning, that's transformation. When winter turns into spring, and I'm so ready. I'm so ready for that to happen. But that's transformation. And I have daffodils that are about this tall, and they're ready. And the other day, a lady came into my office at Emmanuel with a fully bloomed daffodil and said, "This is my first one, and I'm giving it to you." So I'm seeing my little things and knowing that pretty soon they're going to be like that flower. Transformation is out there. And kind of the biggest example is that little fuzzy caterpillar that turns into a butterfly. I know there's a scientific thing behind it, but for me, that's a miracle. And the storms that turn into rainbows. It's out there. So it's not really a surprise to me when I look at nature and I see all that transformation happening out there, it isn't a surprise to me that in John's gospel, the first miracle is one of transformation. You know, there's a lot of things that are preached about that story, but usually it has something to do with how much Jesus appreciated weddings, or Jesus stepping into his glory. He's going to be the Messiah. There is that. Those things are in there. But what I'd like us to look at today is that water turning into wine. That piece. So let's look at a little bit of background. Sarah, you have a map for us? David, I'm going to ask you to, you can give the pointer when you do it. Show us where Cana is.
Where the little A is.
And you said this is modern day, right?
Yeah, it's in the same spot.
It's still called Cana. And it's just a hop, skip, and a jump from Nazareth. So that's where, and somewhere between Nazareth and Cana, you know, he was baptized by John, and he went into the desert. And just before this story, he also called a few of his disciples. So there's some time that went on in that space between Nazareth and Cana. Now, not all the Gospels have the story about the wedding at Cana. They choose different things, but John does. And one of the things about John is John really wants people to understand that Jesus is the one. He is the Messiah. And so for him, this sign that was done at the wedding was the proclamation of the fact that Jesus was the Messiah. And so that's why it's in there. So let's kind of leave that a little bit. We can leave the picture up there for a little bit if we want to, so you kind of get the picture of where it is. But let's think about the wedding. Now, this was a Jewish wedding. And at that time, get prepared for this, weddings were 7 days long, the celebration. 7 days. And the host needed to provide hospitality for his guests for this wedding that lasted 7 days. I can imagine, that long, but it was a really great party, I guess. And some of the wine and goodies for that wedding came from the guests. They would bring wine to give to the host. They would bring food and that kind of stuff. So some of that stuff came from there. But the status of the host really depended on how great of a party they could give. And the fact that they ran out of wine in the middle really impacted who the people thought the host was, because it dishonored both the host and the bridegroom. Now, the host might have been a family member of the bridegroom, but it was not a good thing that they ran out of wine. Perhaps more people came than they thought. Perhaps the guests that came didn't have money to bring extra wine and things. We don't know that part of the story. But we know this. Jesus' mother came to him and said, "Oh no, we're out of wine." We don't know exactly what her role was and all that. Was she part of the, why would she be coming and asking for wine? We don't know that. But we do know that she came to Jesus and she said, "We have a problem here." And obviously she expected him to fix it. It sounds like a mom, doesn't it? This is what I need, and you're supposed to do it. And Jesus' response was, "It's not my time yet." And did she listen? Not really. She said, "Okay, servants, do whatever he says." And so, it may not be his time, but mom thinks it is. And it's something he needs to do. So then we go a little bit further in the story, and they have to decide what to do. So Jesus is there. Mom has pushed him into this corner. He needs to do something. And he looks over, and there are 6 stone jars sitting next to the area where they are. And these were jars that were for Jewish purification rites. So they were washing their hands and feet. They were empty at that time. But, that's what they were there for. Now remember, water wasn't really drinkable back there. I mean, what they drank was water. It was the way to keep healthy. That was what they did. So water was done to wash hands, feet, that kind of stuff. So those jars were there, and they were empty. And I kind of get the impression that they weren't like beautiful jars or wonderful jars or jars that had a lot of value. They were just there. And I find it amazing. Can you think of the size of these jars when they would hold 20 to 30 gallons of water? So there were 6, we're told in the story. Let's say they do hold 30 gallons of water. So 6 times 30, how many gallons does that make? 180 gallons of water. And they didn't just pour a little bit of water into these jars. They filled them to the brim. And so 180 gallons of wine, imagine. And not even the common stuff. This was good stuff. But you know what? I don't think the real miracle here was that water was turned into wine. I don't think that was the real miracle. And here's why. I think the miracle was that something ordinary was turned into something extraordinary. And I think that speaks into our lives just a little bit, or a lot. Have you ever changed from who you were before? Have you ever become a different person? Seems to me that the idea of transformation could be a theme song for Jesus. He encountered people, and because of the encounter, they became something extraordinary. Ordinary people. I don't think it's any coincidence that he took these stone jars that were sitting there for something else, and water that people couldn't really drink, but they used to wash. And he took that and he made it into something tremendously wonderful. In fact, it's said that the master of ceremonies was absolutely thrilled that this was the best wine. So I think the miracle here is not water into wine, although that would be a pretty cool thing to be able to do. Imagine. Or maybe not. Maybe not so cool in our day. But I'm reminded by this story that God can change each and every one of us, and each and every person out there, just by speaking to us, by bringing others into our lives. Transformation is how we walk through this life, how we become closer to God. I wish that that I had a line of witnesses here that I could have come up and speak one after the other that could tell you what God has done in their lives. Now I'm going to be real for a moment, and that is that not all transformation comes from the sunshine. Some transformation comes through the clouds and the rain and the storm. Sometimes life hurts. Sometimes it does. And sometimes we'd like to transform other people. We'd like to make that happen. but that's not our place. The transformation that we have a part in is that transformation that becomes a part of my heart. It's written in the scriptures, create in me a clean heart, O God. A clean heart, a pure heart. And that's transformation. It really is. God continually uses the ordinary to bring about the extraordinary. I noticed that the little baby had on Tom's shoes this morning. And Tom's shoes was started by a youngish guy, early 20s. And he created the shoe, which were actually really cute, but they have a higher purpose. For every pair of Tom's shoes that are purchased, he gives another pair to a third world country. And all of his employees take part in that. And it's a huge company now. But each employee is given the opportunity to go and give shoes. Really, really cool. And when I heard an interview with him, he just said, I'm just an ordinary man. I'm just an ordinary man, but he does extraordinary things. So, what about us? Have you done anything extraordinary lately? I'm seeing some blank stares. We don't think in those terms, do we? I'm going to get up today and I'm going to be extraordinary. I'm ready. Okay, God, here I come. There's a poster that a friend of mine shared with me. Her name is Tamara. She's actually a singer. Incredible woman. And the poster she shared with me says something like, I want to be the kind of woman that when my feet hit the floor, the devil says, crap, she's up. You know? But we don't think in those terms. You guys, we don't think that we can be more than we are. We think that we're going to make it to our day. We put our feet on the floor. We decide what hurts and what doesn't. And head for the coffee pot for some of us. And we go through our day, an ordinary day. But what if we begin to put on our glasses that let us see the extraordinary? What if we expected transformation? What would that make our days different? Maybe, maybe not. Because we see ourselves as we are, ordinary people. Transformation doesn't have to be anything big and huge. It's kind of nice if it is, but it doesn't have to be. Transformation can be that act of kindness that makes a huge difference in someone's life. Transformation can be that hug that helps that person who's hurting get through the day. Yesterday at the Pray and Play Day, we did kind of this play, and somewhere some pictures will circulate with me with a newspaper hat. I'm a soldier. I'll pretend it's not me. But three of us were soldiers, and we came into a village, and we wanted something to eat, and the villagers were afraid to give what they had. And so that's how the story of stone soup goes. So the soldiers had this conversation, and they said, oh, we can make the best soup out of these 3 stones. And so they put the stones on to boil, and then pretty soon they're talking about, that's going to be the best soup, that stone soup, but, it would be even better if it had some carrots. So the villagers come up with carrots. And then it goes on with potatoes and cabbage and all kinds of things. And in the bottom of that pot, there's still those stones, but they have water and stuff. And so in the course of the day, We actually made stone soup. We can work together to transform. We can make things where I have a piece of something and you have a piece of something we can put together. Because we don't have to do it alone. Transformation never has to be alone. It can be together. Sharing. And so we made this stone soup and everybody shared it and things. And we talked about how transformation comes a little at a time and that we can make transformation for the world. When we help others, Delphine, I love your meditation because when we help others with their needs, we're helping transform their lives. That person might not be out on the street because of that one thing that we were able to do. And the very act of healing is also transformation. You know, we can be and heal in a lot of different ways. And sometimes it's physical and sometimes it's in the heart. And it makes us more than what we began with. So the miracle here is not that water is changed into wine, although it's really cool. That'd be a fun thing to do. The real miracle is that regardless of what happens to us today or tomorrow, regardless of what losses we suffer, regardless of what hills we have to climb, regardless of what hurts we have to endure, and boy, they're out there, the grace of God, the miracle, greets us, and it's never ending. The miracle is that God takes ordinary people, ordinary things, ordinary events, and changes them into new wine, and gives them to us as gifts of love and grace. Gifts that encourage, gifts that strengthen, gifts that heal. I can't tell you what will happen in your life tomorrow. I would have the gift of prophecy, and I'm not sure I'd want it. I can't tell you about that. But I can tell you this. God's grace and strength is yours to help you meet whatever comes tomorrow. And at the end, the wine is good. It's the best. Every step we make toward transformation brings us closer and closer and closer to being that person that God has called us to be. We may be ordinary. Our pots may be old. Our water may not be what other people would drink. And we may have a whole lot of pain to wade through. But God's grace is there waiting for us and helping us, making us think. And that's the miracle. That's the sign. That's the thing that says God is here. Love is here. And we are going to make it. Whatever comes before us. May God grant us his understanding of the message that's just directed in your heart today and in my heart. Whatever that may be. And my charge is to take courage. Take courage. For the best is yet to come. Amen.